The clink of glass sliced through the laughter like a blade. My father stood, lifting his wine as if he were announcing a promotion. "Starting this year," he said, smiling too confidently, "you'll be financially responsible for your brother's situation. He's already under enough pressure." The room went quiet in that dangerous, expectant way. Then my mother added, without even looking at me, "And if you decide to say no, don't expect to be part of this family anymore." I felt it then, not shock, not anger, clarity. I smiled. Slowly, calmly. I tapped my glass once and stood up. "Then let this be my final toast," I said evenly, "and the end of any money you'll ever see from me." Every fork froze. Someone inhaled sharply. No one laughed. My name is Maribel Knox. I'm 31 years old, the eldest daughter, the reliable one, the quiet problem solver who never complained, just paid. For years, my family treated my success like a shared account. My promotions funded my brother's failures. My discipline paid for his chaos. And every time I hesitated, I was reminded how grateful I should be to help. My younger brother, Theo, sat beside my father, eyes glued to his champagne. He didn't defend me. He never had to. Silence had always worked in his favor. The table was dressed in gold and white, New Year's perfection. Toasts, smiles, traditions, all built on the assumption that I'd nod and wire the money by morning. My father's smile faded. "Maribel," he warned softly, "don't ruin the night." I reached for my coat instead. That's when my mother leaned closer and whispered something she thought would scare me into obedience. Instead, it showed me exactly who they were. And for the first time, I didn't feel afraid. I didn't leave that night angry. That scared them more. On the drive home, the city lights blurred past my windshield, and all I could think was how normal that toast had felt to them. Like they'd simply confirmed a long-standing arrangement. Because it wasn't new. Theo had been going through something since college. Dropped out twice. Started 3 businesses, finished none. Every failure was labeled stress. Every consequence was softened before it reached him. And every time I was called, rent gaps, legal fees, temporary loans that were never repaid. I told myself it was family. I told myself it would end once he stabilized. It never did. Meanwhile, I built my life quietly. Long hours. Missed holidays. Saying no to myself so I could keep saying yes to them. My parents praised my strength right before asking for another favor. The worst part? They genuinely believed I owed them. That night, my phone buzzed nonstop. Missed calls. Messages ranging from guilt to anger. My mother's final text read, "You're being dramatic. We'll talk tomorrow." I pulled into my apartment garage, engine still running, hands steady on the wheel. Tomorrow, I realized, was when they'd learn I wasn't bluffing. And neither was the silence I planned to give them. The next morning, my mother showed up at my apartment unannounced. No greeting, no hug, just her coat still on, purse clutched tight, eyes already sharp. "Don't do this," she said, like she was warning a child about touching fire. I poured coffee, sat across from her, waited. She sighed dramatically. "Your brother didn't sleep all night. He's spiraling. And your father is embarrassed. Do you know how this looks?" There it was. Not concern. Image. I reminded her calmly that I'd already paid Theo's last 2 debts. That I'd covered his legal mess in October. That my savings weren't infinite. She laughed. Actually laughed. "You make good money," she said. "You'll recover." He won't. That sentence landed heavier than any insult. Later that day, Theo finally called. Not to apologize. Not to explain. Just one line. "Why are you punishing me?" That's when I felt it, the shift. Not anger. Not guilt. Recognition. I wasn't his sister to them. I was a resource. And once you see that clearly, you can never unsee it. 3 days later, my father made sure the message went public. He invited extended family over to clear the air. I should have known better, but some part of me still believed honesty mattered. I walked into their living room to 20 familiar faces, aunts, uncles, cousins, all smiling too tightly. My mother sat at the center like a judge. Theo was beside her, eyes down, playing the role perfectly. My father stood and announced, "We're concerned about Elena's recent behavior." He used my full name. Formal. Cold. "She's chosen to abandon her brother during a fragile time," he continued. "After everything we've done for her." Murmurs rippled through the room. An aunt shook her head. Someone whispered, "Selfish." I tried to speak. My mother raised her hand. "This isn't a debate," she said. "This is about accountability." That was the moment, the one that burned. They weren't just demanding money anymore. They were rewriting history. I felt my face heat, my hands shake, not from fear, but from humiliation. And in that exact moment, something hardened inside me. If they wanted a story, I'd make sure the truth finished it. And this time, I wouldn't defend myself at all. I went home that night and didn't cry. I sat on my couch, shoes still on, lights off, replaying every word they'd used: abandon, selfish, ungrateful. Not once had anyone mentioned the years of transfers, receipts, late-night calls. By morning, the pain had settled into something cleaner. Focus. I opened my laptop and pulled up my bank records. 7 years. Every payment. Every temporary rescue. I organized them by date, amount, purpose. Rent. Debt. Legal fees. Business restart. Then I pulled something else. The documents Theo had asked me to co-sign last year. The ones my father had promised were harmless. I trusted them. I shouldn't have. For the first time, I read every line slowly. And there it was. Not just entitlement liability. I realized then, I didn't need to shout. I didn't need to expose them emotionally. I just needed to stop protecting them from consequences. And once I did that, everything would move on its own. I closed my laptop, calm and steady. They thought I was panicking. In reality, I was finally done saving people who kept pushing me under. I started with silence. No replies. No explanations. No warnings. Then I sent one email, polite, professional, to my bank, formally withdrawing myself from any future financial responsibility connected to Theo. Next, I contacted a lawyer. Not to threaten. To clarify. To separate my name from every obligation I'd been guilted into carrying. The real tension came 2 days later. My father called, voice tight. "What did you do?" he asked. I said nothing at first. Let the quiet stretch. "I stopped fixing things," I finally replied. By that evening, the fallout had begun. Payments bounced. Calls went unanswered. Doors that had always opened for Theo suddenly didn't. My phone lit up. My mother. My brother. Then my father again. This time, there was panic under the anger. For the first time, they weren't asking. They were realizing. And I sat there, heart steady, listening to their world finally wobble, knowing I hadn't pushed it. I'd simply stepped out of the way. They showed up at my door together. Both of them. My parents stood in the hallway like strangers, tense, unsure, suddenly older. My mother's voice cracked first. "You didn't have to take it this far." I looked past her at my father. He wouldn't meet my eyes. Theo wasn't with them. That told me everything. "He's in trouble," my father finally said. "Real trouble. And you're the only one who can help." I shook my head slowly. I already did. For years. My mother reached for my arm. I stepped back. For the first time in my life, they looked scared, not of losing me, but of facing reality without my buffer. And that's when it hit me. They didn't miss me. They missed what I made easier. My father exhaled sharply. "So this is it? You're just walking away?" I opened the door wider, calm as ever. "No," I said. "I'm finally walking forward." They left without another word. And for the first time, the silence felt earned. 2 weeks later, I heard through an aunt that Theo had finally been forced to deal with his mess alone. No safety net. No quiet transfers. No sister to soften the fall. My parents stopped calling after that. Not because they understood, but because there was nothing left to demand. On New Year's Day, I poured myself a glass of wine and stood alone by my apartment window. The city was quiet.
Clean. Honest.
I thought about that table. The toast. The threat dressed up as family duty. Back then, they believed money was my obligation. They were wrong. It was my choice. And choosing myself didn't make me cruel. It made me free. I raised my glass, not in anger, not in triumph, but in peace. To endings, I whispered. And to never confusing love with control again. The year had started with silence. This time, it belonged to me.